that is cloud computing and big data. So moreover, I will be allowed to move again. Okay. So the point is that moreover we hear this term cloud computing and big data daily, and in fact usually and day-to-day life we use it very normally, right? That cloud computing, big data. But moreover, there is a myth that internet is somehow related with the cloud computing, that internet is a cloud computing. Some of the people or students think is that internet is somewhat a cloud or a big data, whereas this is not true. Internet is one of the core component of big data and cloud, where to access a cloud or cloud computing, right, or to have accessibility on a cloud computing, you require internet or internet access. Similarly, for big data or big data analytics, you require an access to the internet. That is an essential component of it, right? So that is a very initial part to a cloud computing and big data. I would start, what is the purpose of having a big data and cloud, right? So this will be probably most important one to start with a particular technical session one. Why we require cloud computing or big data? What is the purpose? Anyone, if you can answer. Reason why we have this concept, why this concept emerged. Anyone? I could say any student, if you have, if you want to answer. Any student? To store files. You have a hard disk. You have a hard disk. Store the file there. Why you require a big data or a particularly cloud computing? Whether your files are not secured at in your own personal PC, who's going to take your PC or laptop? Still that is there with you, right? But why you require a cloud, or why you require a particular file to be stored on a cloud or a particular big data analytics, right? Why you require it? Any other guess? No worries. Cuts cost, right? So it is your own PC, right? You don't need to ask anyone else. You don't need to pay somebody else to keep your own files, right? You can keep your own files on your own PC. So to whom you are going to pay? Yes. One of the key points due to which this particular concept came, that you should have an accessibility to the data anywhere in the world. Right? Suppose, for example, I don't have my laptop with me, but still I can have my data accessibility right now. Right? That means somebody said that, say Mr. Ashish said that I need your CV, sir. Right? We want to appoint you, just for example. So I'm saying, I'm sorry, sir, I don't carry my CV. I won't be able to give you. Right? So I can lose my opportunity. Right now I can get an appointment, right, with a good scale, but I don't have my CV. But immediately a thing flagged in my mind that I have my CV on my cloud, on my Gmail. I have a CV copy. Sir, just wait for a minute. I will get back to you within few minutes. I can download a particular CV from my Gmail or Google Drive or any of the other cloud platforms and immediately can supply that to you, right? So that is the important feature that cloud gives to you, right? That you can have the accessibility to your own data, right? Wherever you want, right? And whenever you want, right? These two things are very important, right? Because you don't know at which particular point a data will be required. Maybe you are in train, somebody, suppose again, you all are like UG and PG students. Again, somebody can ask you also a particular CV. You are not carrying a hard copy of it, right? Again, you can give it from a mail or a cloud, right? So this is why you have a emergence of this cloud. Second, your PC or your laptop, personal laptop, is having a limitation. Anyone who can say that? A limitation of your own PC.
Say limited to the disk size.
Yes, very good. That is, it is limited, right? The storage capacity is limited as per your pocket, right? Earlier it was 80 GB to 250 GB, now it is 500 GB to 1 TB and so and so. right? But it is limited as per your convenience, right? So how much you want, you can bear. But again, that will have a limit. But the cloud will not create that limits for you. Although again, that is condition based, you have to pay for it, whatever you want to extend. But again, that is a kind of limit, right? So that again, the second feature that is provided by a cloud, right? So I will start with this first one, that is, what is cloud, right? So from where this term came, cloud. So any idea why this cloud is the word included in this cloud computing? Why this cloud is there? Why not something else?
Clouds are everywhere.
Clouds are everywhere, right? Anything else? Unlimited. Do not relate with data, relate with cloud, features of cloud. Yes? Anyone? Virtually present. It actually present, right? Cloud is actually, you can see it, right? You can feel it. Virtually is something which is not, you cannot experience it, right? Yes? Not exactly. Anyone else? Plus, please be interactive, right? Moreover, these seminars are for having an interaction, right? It is not for us to speak and you to listen, right? Whether we are here to generate knowledge, right? So it can only be generated when you will be speaking, right? Rather than only listening, right? So better I would say, if you can, it can be wrong, right? But at least you will try, right? So give a try. Yes?
So it can increase.
Yes, it is everywhere, right? See, these things will relate you to understand cloud in a better way. That's why I am asking these concepts, right? So, everywhere, right? Yes, then?
It can increase according to our needs.
It's scalable, right? It is elastic too, right? It can have in different shapes, right? It can be of different shapes, right? So again, it can be scalable enough, right? Then, huge, right? Sometimes huge, right? So the thing is that all these things, right, are having as a property with the cloud. Similarly, if you can see the databases, right, or the cloud computing, you will find these similar properties. That is, that you can access your data anywhere. Similarly, you can find clouds anywhere in the world, right? Anyone who can say that clouds are not present? Forget about Delhi pollution and all, right? So, but still, they exist, right? Then, huge, right? So, similarly, big data and cloud is something which relates with the huge data or databases, right? Bulk amount of data, right? Accessibility to those are everywhere, right? Elastic enough, that means they can reshape themselves, right? I hope you know that cloud can reshape themselves. So similarly, if you want to extend a size of cloud, again that can be extended. What is the size that Gmail offers you? How much data you can store on Gmail? 15 GB. The seniors who are present here, they must be knowing that earlier when Gmail, when you have created the amount, Gmail account, whether it was 15 GB, it was 5. Later on increased to 10, now it is 15. Maybe tomorrow it is 20. Right? Day after tomorrow it can be 50. What is that? It is reshaping itself, right? As similar to a cloud, right? So that means you can extend your limits, right? If you want. Suppose for example, I hope you know about Rediff, right? Paid services, right? So if you want more, although you can use the Google services too for this, but again, you have other options. So if you want to access more services, so again you can pay for it and you can utilize it, right? So with a particular cloud, that cloud is a concept of virtualization. I will be coming to what is virtualization is with the examples. So for 2 to 3 slides, you have to hold this particular topic, what is virtualization is. So where users can store their huge amount of data, right? The basic purpose of these two is to use cloud as a storage as a service, right? Moreover, if I say the people here sitting here, 99% people sitting here are using cloud as their storage as a service, right? Forget about the other IAS, SAS and other services, but most of the students are using, or most of the people are using as storage as a service, right? A Gmail or Google Drive, right? So, moreover, it relates with data storage and can access it whenever required and from anywhere throughout the world, right? Most important. So you have an accessibility to your data throughout the world. Now, this is the definition that you get on internet, and in fact in every research paper, right? Not even a single research paper is published without this definition, and most relevant definition, because it incorporates all the features or essential features, I should say, of cloud computing. As it says that cloud computing is a model for enabling convenient. Now, somebody said easy to access, right? Suppose for example, if I want to download a file, again my CV from cloud, right? How much minutes it requires? Can I say in seconds I can download a single application, a single CV from my Gmail in seconds, or maybe in minutes, 1 or 2 minutes, right? So easy to access. So I hope people sitting here, they must be knowing that if you are making a system complex, right, user friendliness goes, right? Or it is inversely proportional, right? If a system is complex, user friendliness will be on a minimum scale, right? So the development, right, whosoever will be the developer, have to develop a system in a way that it should not be complex enough, right? I give a very basic example of Android and Windows Phone, right? I hope you have used it, right? You have experienced it, you might have experienced it, the complexity a particular Windows phone is having as compared to an Android phone. Second example, Windows operating system and Linux operating system, if you have experienced it, again the user friendliness, maybe with the use of GUI and all. The thing is that if you are making your system complex, user friendliness will go, right? That will be in the lower part. So cloud computing is something which is not complex, right? Which is easy to access, right? Someone who is not so technical, again they can use a particular Gmail or Google Drive or anything else. Now a particular person, right, who is not not even went for a schooling also, right? So they are also having pictures on Google Drive now, right? They don't know what is Google Drive, but their pictures are loaded on Google Drive, right? The thing is that this is the ease that they feel when they are uploading the data on Google Drive, right? So what they require, only a synchronization. I hope you know what a sync means, right? So that means you have to click a single button sync and everything will be automatically loaded on the Google Drive, right? The Android gives you this feature, right? So this is the ease that you have when you are accessing it, right? On-demand services, very important. That is that whenever you require it, you can have the accessibility to a particular information, right? I will come with all the essential parts, essential descriptions. So other than this, after this slide I will be discussing all the essential features. If you can see this model, right, this is again taken from Google only. So this is one of a kind of cloud architecture, right? Cloud follows a concept of thin client and a heavy server. Now, it follows a client server model, but basically it follows a thin client and a heavy server model. Now what it means, thin client. Thin as I am, yes, you can relate a thin client and a heavy server, right? Now, what it means, suppose I have my laptop, right? Suppose the laptop present here is having only 100 GB of space, right? Now, if I ask you that you have to store 100 applications, right? Having 2 GB each space, 100 application, 100 GB of space. Whether you will be able to store it on your PC? No, right? You can say no. But what is the option you have? Every particular application you require, your HOD says that I need tomorrow when you come, your laptop should have all the applications. What you will do? You have no option. But cloud says, don't worry, right? Says that upload, I have already uploaded those 100 applications in my cloud, right? Just have a connection with me through internet, right? Have a connection and you can access all those 100 applications whenever you wish to get, right? Plus, you don't need to store on your 100 GB. That means 100 GB is free. You can store movies, right? In those 100 GB, you don't need to store any applications, right? So the thing is that this easiness that is provided by the cloud, right? So moreover, whosoever will be a client, right? Everyone sitting here, right, will try to reduce the burden. So cloud reduces the burden on the client side, right? So if you want number of applications, don't store on your own PC, get the access, right? So for example, SAS service, we will be discussing those. So you can connect to the internet, right? To the internet you can connect to the cloud and get those services on your own desktop, right? So this is again a concept of virtualization through which you can access it, right? Second, if you can see the number of things that is available to a particular user, that is a database storage, application servers, computer network, and there is a control node. Now, what is the purpose? Suppose, if you can see, we can, in this particular model, you have three different types of services that you can use. That is number of applications, number of database that is present, storage purpose, and a particular computer network, right? Suppose a LAN of an college, right? Or an institute that requires number of PCs. So the thing is that these number of services, you can have accessibility by just connecting to that particular internet architecture, right? So the thing is, you don't require to have a database storage of 500 GB or 5 TB or whatever, right? Or applications, number of applications to be present at your client side. All these can be at the second level, right? That is at the server level. Rest, you only require a connection, that's it. Internet connection, and you can be easily connected to the servers, right? And you can use whatever services you want to use. The essential characteristics, I will be explaining this in detail. So moreover, cloud is focused on these services, right? And it is more important just because of these services. So very first, resource pooling, right? Now if you can see, suppose for example, consider this, I am using a bucket here, keeping a bucket, right? So in that bucket I am keeping different items, different sort of items, right? Maybe my pen, this mic, mobile phone, a particular, say, a book, different types of book, n number of things, right? And if I ask you, right, if I ask you that anything which is present here, you can take that, right? So you have a versatile options, right? You have heterogeneous options, right? That means you can pick any of those resources, right? But the thing is, suppose I am creating a next bucket, and in that I am only keeping books of your own curriculum, own syllabus, right? So that means you have a limited scope now, right? So that means if a particular user is given an opportunity to access a versatile resource, right, rather than accessing a particular homogeneous items, so obviously a user will access a heterogeneous items, right? Because suppose for example, if you are moving to library, right, and if you are getting a book of only one subject, a library is full of books but only one subject, whether every day you will be going to the library to read the same book or same subject book? No, right? Library should be of a heterogeneous contents, right? Suppose for example, today you want to read a magazine, you can read a magazine, a newspaper, right, a particular book of different subject, right? So the thing is, cloud computing gives a particular pool where resources are heterogeneous, right? Different type of heterogeneous materials or the resources that will be present, maybe an application, right? Maybe a particular database, right? Or again, in the software also different kinds of software. Suppose for example, if I give you a service that you can come here and you can play a game, right? But the game will be fixed. At some point you will be bored, right? 1 day, 2 day, 3 days you will play, but at some point you will be bored. But if I say that whenever you will come, you will play a new game. Again, you will come to explore which game I am going to play today, right? So this is the beauty of a cloud, where you will have a heterogeneous resource pool, right? And you can pick a particular resource of your own choice, right? And that is up to you, right? Whichever resource you want to access. Second is the measured services. The best example is a post-paid services, right? Best example for this is, to relate it, not exactly post-paid services relate with this, but post-paid services, what we do, you are paying, right? How you are paying? As per your usage. So you called for 100 minutes, so you have to pay for that 100 minutes, right? Whether it will be charging more? No, that is a paid service. That means whatever you are using, right, you have to pay according to that usage, right? Suppose everyone might be using Geo. You get a message 50% you have used, exhausted 50% of your data usage. You get a message. How you get it? Through the measured services, right? It measures what you use, right? How much you have used it. Suppose an Android phone, or moreover every particular mobile phone, gives you a feature of calculating a mobile data usage. If you go in settings, you will find a particular application which says that how much data usage you have done. So accordingly you can identify the resource usage that you have done. So cloud says that whatever you use, we measure it, and accordingly you will get a service. One of the second last option that you can see, utility computing. It relates with measured services. Now anyone who knows utility computing? Utility computing says pay as per usage. Utility computing says pay as per your usage. That means again postpaid. So how you are going to pay? As the measured services. So measured services said that you have used 50 GB of data, so you have to pay for that 50 GB of data. So it uses the utility computing through, right? So pay whatever you are going to use. On-demand services, as we have discussed this, whenever you require, you can access your information, right? Wherever it is present, right? The only condition is internet, right? So that you have a internet connection, and then you can have the accessibility to that data or any application as such. Broad network access, very important, right? That is again depends on the services. If you are using all the services, say IaaS, PaaS and SaaS, again we will be discussing all these. So if any of the services you are using, you have a broad network access, right? Suppose if you have a PC, right, own PC, there will be again a limitation of number of application that a PC have. Again, take your mobile phones. Do you have all the applications that are there in the Google Play? All the applications do you have on your mobile phones? No. What you do? You have only downloaded those applications which you require, right? Say WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, right? Or Gmail, LinkedIn. These applications you must have downloaded. But you have not downloaded all the applications which are present in the Google Play, or I should say resource pool, right? So the point is, particularly whenever you require it, you can have an accessibility, plus through which again a broad network access. So you will find millions of applications that is present on Google, right? But on demand, whenever you require, you get a access again through the internet connectivity, right? Location independent, very important, right? It is not that if you are in Bhopal, then only you will be able to access your cloud. If you are in Mumbai, if you are in Delhi or outside India, anywhere in the world, you can have the accessibility to your data, right? But if it is your laptop and if it is kept here, you can have only accessibility if you are present nearby, right? Rather than you won't be able to access that particular information. Rapid elasticity, very important. You can have, the cloud have a feature of elasticity. That means it can have a particular variations, right? So that variations are possible with the cloud, and this is the very important feature that a cloud is having. High performance computing, again moreover for number of say big data, right? So if a big data analysis is done, so it requires a high performance computing. You might have heard about latest developments on quantum computing, right? So again, it requires a high performance computing to have an accessibility on the databases or the application that you are using. I have covered utility. Autonomic computing, that is, you don't require any intermediary for that. Very important, right? To access at Google, have you approached the owner of the Google? Right? You have direct accessibility to the Google, right? Or say for example, Facebook. How many have called Zuckerberg for having an account on Facebook? No, you don't require it, right? Again, say the example of WhatsApp. So these applications, right, these features, you can have the accessibility without any intermediary. You don't need to take any permissions, right? Although there are prerequisites, you need to fill the forms and all, but still you can have the accessibility without any such intermediaries. So you will have a direct process, right? Automatic process that will be involved in it, right? Then comes the cloud deployment models. Again, if you will start with cloud computing, you will find this is again the very basic topic where you will find the categories of cloud in which you will find it. Particularly, these are the broad 4 categories, and I should say first 2 and the rest 2 are the again a kind of hybrid we are using. Suppose first, that is a private cloud. Moreover, with a private cloud, what comes to your mind? With a private cloud, what comes to your mind? That is having an ownership, right? That is having an ownership with respect to any private entity, right? Moreover, private clouds are used by the organization. They solely own that particular cloud, right? They have an accessibility to that particular cloud storage, right? So they own, right? They pay for it and they have an accessibility to that particular cloud, right? Public cloud, moreover, they are available to the public. Now, a particular user can have the accessibility. Suppose, for example, Google is providing that public cloud to the general public, right? Now, two-way process, again, that can be, one can be an option where you have a paid resources, right? You can have, say, Gmail, that is, again, for a limit, it is free, right? After it, you can have a paid resources too. So, that is a basic difference that you will have in public and a particular private. Next is a community cloud. Suppose, for example, if there are 2 organizations, right, and they are small scale organizations, right, they have a limited funds, right, they are not having, say they are just a startup, they don't have such expenditure to have a particular spin on a cloud, right? So what they do, they make a community, right? They club together and they make a community and they buy a cloud, right? A particular private cloud. That cloud will act as a community cloud, where a group of companies or the organization will have an accessibility to a particular cloud, right? So they group together, so that is why it is known as a community cloud, right? Last comes a hybrid cloud, a combo, right? What is a hybrid? A combination. So combination of any 2, right, can be a hybrid cloud. Now the point is to have an accessibility to the private cloud, the features of private cloud, because one of the feature, that is security. Security is more in the private cloud, right, as compared to the public clouds, right? If you will see about the features that a Rediff have, if you are owning a private cloud, right, a private space, that is more as compared to the Google services, right? So the thing is, privately owned cloud gives you a more emphasis on security, right? And similarly, other services too. This is a diagram which through which you can relate this difference between a private community and a particular public clouds. So private, that will be owned by a particular enterprise, right? Maybe any X enterprise. Community, you have a pool of number of organizations, and public, you can have a variety of users who can have an accessibility to that public. And last is the example for a hybrid, where you can have a combo of public and a private cloud, right, where you require both the services. An organization, say for example cloud, it offers, Google, it offers both the services, right? So they follow a hybrid model. For few, they offer a particular private cloud, and few they offer a public. Cloud-based service offerings. Now, very important. These are the 3 basic services in which you can find a cloud offering the services. Like, very first is the IaaS, PaaS and the SaaS services. IaaS services. Now you have an infrastructure. Suppose, for example, a real life example, you have this college, VSS, right? You have classroom, conference hall, everything here, right? I say that there is something, suppose a disaster happens, just for example, a disaster happens and this particular site is not working, right? You have, like, again, for 7 days site is not working, but again there will be a loss for the students, classes are not going on, right? You require an infrastructure, right? So physically what you require, a alternate site, so you can shift it to a alternate sites, right? But what if these sites have to be provided to the users virtually, right? So they require the infrastructure as such too, right? So suppose, for example, if a provider is providing you these number of now infrastructure will include the servers, computers, processing capacity, right, high performance capacity and all these services will be delivered to you, right, through the IaaS services. Now the example I hope you might have heard about AWS, Amazon Web Services, right? So they are the providers for IaaS services. You can ask for IaaS services from a particular AWS, right? You can get those IaaS services. You just need to pay for it. The management have to be done by a particular IaaS provider. Now, this process takes place in two ways. One is the third party managers and the person who is providing that services. So again, that will cost you more if you are opting for the third party service providers, right? So again, depending on the cost, it can vary. Second comes a platform as a service. I give an example. Suppose you want to develop a software in C++, you want to develop a software in Java, you want to develop a software in .NET, right? And you have a limit that a particular space that you have, that is only 500 GB, right? And you have already exhausted your space and you want to develop a project on these three platforms. Whether if you are storing these three platforms on your PC, will affect the performance of the PC? Yes, will it? That is going to affect. But I give you an offer that do not load these platforms on your own PC. I will give you, just have a connection, internet connection. So platform as a service says that we will provide you number of platforms which you require. Just have the accessibility to these platforms, right? Suppose for example, if you want to develop a C++ software, right, or a particular program, you connect to the internet, we will provide that platform to you to develop a particular software in C++. Same is suppose Java, .NET, PHP or any of the frameworks, right? Suppose, have you experienced any, say you have developed any website, anyone? Okay, suppose for example, if you will develop a website, you have to test a website, right? Whatever you do, you test it, right? Suppose for example, you are buying a new dress, you have to test it. You do a trial, right? So similarly, if you are making a website, you have to test it, right? So you test it on a local server, right? Suppose XAMPP, right? So again, that XAMPP will require a space to be stored on your machine, right? So the thing is, what you do, you again ask a cloud to test your website, right? So they will provide that XAMPP server to test your machine. So this is the flexibility that you have. Don't store any of such platforms on your machine. Suppose, very basic example, I hope you all must be using Microsoft Office, right? What if I say that you don't require it, remove it from your PC? What you will say? Sir, what you are doing, right? How we are going to create these presentations, right? How we are going to create the projects, right? So how you are going to access? Now I am saying that you will have an option. Microsoft gives an option to you, right? Right? Yes. So the thing is that when such applications are provided to you without storing that on your own machine, you have the accessibility. Your own space is free. You can use it for your purpose. So the thing is, whenever you require, connect it to the internet and you will get those platforms to perform. So whenever you require a particular PowerPoint to be created or presentation to be created, you can just connect to the internet and you can create it by there. The examples for this, Microsoft Azure, well known, and Salesforce.com. Last, that is the software as a service. Now, applications, number of applications you have an accessibility. Suppose for example, how many of you have played online games? I asked about how many have created projects, right? Office, so nobody raised games. So yes, so games, yes, everyone is. So what is, whether those online games are stored on your PC? I'm using the term online, already it is clear that is not there. But the thing is, whether those games are present on your hard disk, whether you have installed it. No, right? That is present. You have a new game, PUBG, right? So I can see the smiles. So the thing is that whether that is stored on your PC, the database. No, that is again on cloud. You are just connecting through the internet and you are getting the accessibility to that, right? So the thing is, such applications you can use again through a cloud only. You require an accessibility to the internet. So the thing is, the load is decreased on the client. So again, you are a thin client now. So the application that you require, we have that. The platform that you require, we have that. The infrastructure that you require, we have that. What you require, right? So this is the beauty that cloud provides to you. Your own services whenever it is required. I will be finishing this in 5 minutes, right? So cutting it short, big data. So is there any difference between these two terms, big data and cloud? Is there any difference, or they are same? So the organizers must have included a slash, emergence of cloud computing slash cloud computing, right? Or that is different, right? So what is the difference? Is there any difference? Yes, you all know there is a difference because there is an and, right? So what is that difference? See, big data, with its name you need to remember this is said about huge data, right? Whereas I should come directly to the differences. That cloud computing says that you have n number of resources. One is data. One of the resources data. Rest other resources are present, say for example applications and all, right? So these all are provided by the cloud, but not by a particular big data. Big data is basically analyzing a huge amount of data. One of the term is used, big data analytics, right? The best example I can give, if you remember the recent controversy of Facebook, Cambridge, right? So that is what? That is the analysis done on the big data. I hope you know about profiling. The example, you use Facebook. Suppose for example in the two tabs, one is the Facebook you are using, and the second tab you are using Amazon or Flipkart or Jabong or anything else, right? You have seen a watch, right? A Timex watch or Titan watch costing 500 rupees or 5,000 whatever. Immediately you have switched to Facebook again, right? And you see that the same watch that you have seen on Amazon is reflected on your Facebook stating that you have a 50% discount and now you can purchase it for 250 rupees or 2,500, whatever it is. How it happens? It is basically a profiling, right? An analytics, right? So it is capturing your moves, right? That you are doing. It is capturing your data. But capturing its data is one thing, but doing an analysis of that data is the second thing. So that analytics comes from that particular big data. So you have giant, particularly a huge amount of data, you need to extract information, a particular useful information from that raw data, right? Second example, recently if you can see in the elections, you see, right, the leaders, they give this, like they pay for the big data companies to analyze the voters, right, the information about the voters, what their interest is, or whether they are interested in X party or Y party, right? So that is possible with the help of big data analytics only, right? Okay, I am summing up.